Hello and welcome along to the next instalment of my camper conversion YouTube channel. So this video is part of a series converting a VW T5 high top from a mobile mechanics van into a fully fledged DVLA registered camper van. Now, part of that conversion, I'm going to be replacing the original seats, both the double and the single, for some leather seats. I'm probably going to be fitting some Audi TT seats in. Still not 100% decided, but first things first, I need to remove the driver's base from the old seat. As you can see, that's well past it. It's had 8 or 9 years worth of grime and oil, grease, this, that, the other ingrained into it, so I don't know whether that's even going to be salvageable or not. It could be okay for reupholstering, something like that, but I'm not interested in anything like that. As I say, I'm just going to be completely replacing both seats. So I need the driver's seat base for the new seat to mount onto. So first things first, I need to get this seat off the base. Now, VW being awkward as they are, on the front you've just got nuts, but on the back you've actually got star drives. So it's not just a case of one tool to remove the seats, you need both spanner or socket set and star drive set to be able to actually release the seat from the base. Once the seat's off, then the base can get mounted back into the van. I've already bought a second single base for this passenger seat as well. That's just going to need the handbrake attachment bar on the side of it removing. So first things first, I'm going to get the seat removed off the base. Then I'm going to get both of the actual bases lined up, just to make sure, more the passenger side, just to be sure which of the actual mounting bolts they actually attach to. Then I'll get the seats out and we'll start getting those mounted. So that's all 4 bolts out now, so now it should just be a case of lifting the seat up off the base, and away we go. And that's one free base, now ready to have whatever seat mounted onto it. So as I say, I'm thinking Audi TT, we'll see. I'll pick it up in a second and the seats should be ready to go in. So these are the seats I'm going to be fitting into the T5. These are a set of black leather Mazda RX8 seats. They're exactly the same seats I've got fitted into my current VW T4, and they're really comfy seats. I've been on 5-hour journeys up to Scotland and back, no issues at all. They're fully electric on the driver's side as well. Lumbar support, rise and recline, this, that, the other. They're really nice seats, put it that way. They do generally need a little bit of modification to fit onto the seat bases, whether they're going into a T4 or a T5 or any other van really. It's very rare that you'd get a set of seats that will just sit straight on top of your old seat base and they'll bolt straight in. Now, these were previously fitted into a different T4 that I've just bought. I've taken those bases off, I've sold those bases, so now I've just got the seats to fit. Now, when they were previously fitted into a previous T4, you can see someone's had some mounting brackets on the seats. I've taken these off just to be able to make sure that everything lines up. On the T5 seat bases, you do have these 2 front lugs. These are going to have to get ground off, and if you are swapping it over for 2 single seats and you manage to get a driver's seat base like I've got here for the passenger side, I'm also going to have to take off the handbrake lever as well, otherwise this base won't fit on the passenger side. So I'll cover this when I do the passenger seat. As I say, first things first, driver's seat is the priority. So initially I'm going to be taking these 2 lugs off. Then I'll probably be putting the rails back onto the seats and seeing where they're going to line up best. Poke a couple of holes through on the actual sides of the bases, get them bolted in, wired in, and that should be it. So I'll get my grinder out, get some safety gear on, start grinding away and see how far we get for the day. So as you can see, I do take the mounting of the seats quite seriously, just by the thickness of the steel you can see I'm using compared to the brackets that the previous owner used when they were fitting them in the T4. I mean, don't get me wrong, that sort of thickness steel would still be fine, but this is, I think it's either 4 or 5 millimeter thick. So as I say, the thickness of that stuff is absolutely ridiculous. So safety wise, it's always better to go for as chunky steel as you can when you're doing any brackets. So they're all cut down, they've got the holes drilled through as well, as you can see. So now it's a case of starting to get them mounted in. Right, so that's all 4 brackets mounted on place on the rails. They're all seated nicely going round as well. So now it's just a case of poking some holes through in the holes that I'll put onto the brackets through the base. Then the 4 brackets will then be secured through the bolts, through the base, and secured on the other side with some locking nuts. Then once they're in place, this isn't going to be going anywhere at all. So it's coming along quite nicely. Hopefully another half hour or so, should be able to get the seat finished off and get cracked on with the passenger side. Right, so there we go. After a lot of messing around and pissing about, this, that, the other, that is now the driver's seat fully secured on, and that isn't going to go anywhere with the bolts that are going through that, and with the thickness of the steel brackets as well, they are fully secure. The only thing left to do now is to get it back into the van and get the wiring done for the electric functions. Otherwise, once it's in, it won't be able to move, because all of the actual functions on the driver's seat are electric, moving it backwards and forwards, the actual backrest, this, that, the other. So you do need a live and a negative feed, ideally going through a relay to be able to wire these in, just so then it's not actually draining your main starter battery as well. But that's one fully mounted onto the base, so now it's a case of rinse and repeat and do exactly the same for the second one, for the passenger side. So I'm just cracking on mounting the passenger seat. Now the rails on the passenger seat will actually mount onto the base of a T5. You need to drill new holes either side. I've just finished mounting the front side. So you can see there's a mounting bolt through there, another mounting bolt through there, and then they've obviously got washers and nuts on the other side. Just to be making sure that they are 100% tight. As you can see, the chair's sliding backwards and forwards fine now as well. So now I just need to drill a couple more holes on the rear, one for there, one for there. Just drill it straight through with a drill bit. Then it's just a case of bolting them on, and then the passenger side will be done as well. So the passenger side, a hell of a lot easier than the actual driver's side. The driver's side's a lot more awkward because you've got motors in the way of the runners. You don't have as much free play with the runner itself. So driver's side generally brackets, passenger side you can get away with mounting it directly. So I'll get the drill back out, get a couple more drills drilled through, get this bolted on, and then they'll be ready to get mounted back inside the van. Right, so there's the passenger seat fully mounted in now as well. That one was a hell of a lot easier than the driver's seat, as I say, just because this one will mount directly to the actual base. It's just a bit more of a pain to do it on the driver's side because of where the rail motors are, and because the rail itself needs to be secured in place in regards to where the motor sits inside the rail. Because the passenger seat is completely manual, this one just goes straight on. And as you can see, that's running backwards and forwards lovely there as well. So that's both seats mounted onto the bases. Now it's just a case of getting the bases back inside the van, do a little bit of wiring for the driver's seat, and that'll be it. So I'll pick it back up when I've got the floor mat back down inside the van. I've been doing some central locking repairs on the van itself at the moment, so I'm going to try and get that resolved before I fit the seats, because any central locking issues on the T5 is generally to do with some of the wiring underneath the seating. As you can see, I've had to replace some of the wiring there already. I should hopefully have a video on my channel if I do finally get to the bottom of the gremlins on this, because I've already replaced some cables and the central locking still isn't working. So I'll pick this back up after I've either sorted or given up on the central locking, and the seats are ready to get mounted back in, and I'll show you how it's all wired in via a relay and show all of the electric seat working and show what they look like when they're all fitted in place. Oh, I finally finished getting the central locking working, so now I can get the seats actually fitted in place on the final fit. Now, as I say, the drivers does need power for all of the functions. The passenger does need power also, but that's just for the heating mechanism if you want to wire the heated seats in. You don't really need to run the ground, because you can run the ground to the seat base, and the seat base then connects all the way to the mounting nuts, the bolts, and that will ground it against the chassis of the body. I've just been poking around looking for a good place to be able to get the wire through, and I don't know how well it'll break out on here because I've had the torch on earlier on, but just up here on the left hand side quite high there's a rubber grommet already going through the firewall. Oh. Pops out behind this plastic cover, and that right there is the grommet that I'm talking about. So I'm going to be running the cable through that and connecting it directly to the battery with an inline fuse right at the battery end. It's then going to be run to a switched relay, and the switched relay means that it's only going to be able to heat the seats up or move the seats when the ignition is turned on the van. It means if you leave the heating mechanism on, got out the van, it's not just going to drain the battery flat. So I'm going to get this cable poked through that grommet, ran down to the battery, and then I've got to decide where I'm going to try and fit the relay to. I'll probably fit it, well, I'm thinking of doing it to one of these switch lives on the radio. Again, the one that only operates the radio when the ignition's on. So I'll have a poke around in there. I'm going to get this cable poked through that grommet, ran underneath the rubber floor matting where all of the other cabling comes through, poked back up, and we'll get it wired in. Right, as you can see, I've got the cable through, and that's the rubber grommet that was quite hard to see from inside. Comes out from underneath the plastic shield. If you pop that up, now's a good time to actually scrape all the crap out that accumulates in there as well. But as you can see, that goes straight through the bulkhead and straight down. So I'm just going to be popping that grommet back into place. Then this cable is going to be connected via an inline fuse. That's going to be then connected directly to the battery. It also means that if anything does pop, it's nice easy access straight to the fuse, and you know what it is and where it is. So I'm just going to get this grommet fed back down the cable. As I say, get that popped back in the hole just to make sure there's not going to be a chance for any water to get creeping back down the bulkhead. Get the wires connected up to the battery, and then we'll get them connected up to the seats. So there's the wiring at the battery side end done. That's the inline fuse connected up. So the 30 amp ring connector on the wire, that's connected directly to the positive, where the cable then loops behind and tucks back up to tuck behind where it goes through. I've actually wrapped around with some duct tape, probably a good 6-7 times if not more, basically just to provide a good safety measure just for where that wire is actually poking through there. You might be able to see that there. I say there's loads of duct tape wrapped around that, so if there were any vibrations, it's only going to be going against the actual duct tape. It's not going to be wearing through the actual wire. So now all that's through, it's a case of getting all the wiring done on the inside of the van now. I say there's plenty of slack from that cable there, so this is all going to get tucked underneath the rubber mat. To be able to get the seats only to work when the key's in the ignition, you do need to wire in a relay. Just a basic switched relay like that, a 30 amp one. Just a standard one. Just 4 wires. You have the wire power coming from the battery. You have another power going out across to the seats. You have a ground wire, and you have a trigger wire. And it's the trigger wire that needs wiring in somewhere under the dash somewhere into a feed that only turns on when the ignition's turned on. Otherwise, as I say, there's the possibility of leaving maybe the heated element on the seats, turning the van off, walking away, and the heating element will just drain the battery down. Now if you're doing this in the T4, one of the quickest and easiest places to get your actual switch light from is probably the glove box light. It takes literally minutes to do on the T4. Just take the glove box off, tap into the brown wire for the light, and that's your switch live for that. Now there is no glove box light in the T5. There's a couple of possible switch lives. I think there's one behind the ignition barrel. There's one in the light switch in there as well, but obviously these are the total opposite side to where I've got the cable coming through from the bulkhead. The other option is on fuse 19 on the fuse box. There's a small brown wire with a green line going through it. That's also a switch live as well, so you can use that for your switching for the relay. Not to take the power feed from it, it's just to power the relay, which then gets the actual power from the battery itself. Bit of a pain just to be able to get the actual fuse box out, to be able to get into the back of the wiring. I've had to take a lot of the actual front dash off. Most of it just unscrews or pulls off. It's just a case of having a good fiddle around, seeing what comes loose, what needs screwing, what just needs pulling out. As I say, now all this is out, I've managed to get the fuse box out, and that itself there, I don't know how well it'll make it out because it is quite dark in here, but let's see if I can get some light on it. That there is the brown wire with just the small green stripe going around it. There's the green underneath it. So you just need to splice into that, have a wire coming out of that into the trigger on the relay, and then we'll be able to get the rest of the seats wired in. So as I say, it's a bit of a pain just to be able to get in to find an actual switched live on the T5. T4, you're talking minutes via the glove box. This has taken me about half an hour or so. It's my first time doing anything on a T5 like this though, so obviously the more you do it, the quicker it becomes. So less talking, more action, let's get cracked on, get tapped into that wire for the relay, and then we'll get the seats wired in. So the relay's all wired in now. I've fed the cable from the fuse 19, all the fuse boxes are now back in place. Ran the cable down behind a few of the heater inlets, this, that, the other, and over into this corner into where the power's coming through the bulkhead to go to the leisure battery. On that side of the metalwork there's also a nice grounding point, so that's where I've grounded the relay. So it's got all 4 cables into a relay just tucked up behind the mat there. It's just a bit too dark, and I've put it all away now, it's a bit hard to see. But I've got a couple of different videos wiring relays on my channel, so I will put a link in the description to one of my other videos. It's a bit more straightforward, it shows a bit better wiring than I've covered in this. So have a look in that description for the link for the other video for actual relay wiring itself. So now that's all back in, I've just got to reassemble all of the actual front part of the dash. I've started putting a few bits and bobs away already. A few more bits to go back in, and then finally get the seats back in and get the wiring done. So I'm just about to wire in the heated mechanism for both of the seats. I've been out and bought a couple of illuminated switches, so that means that both seats can turn the heating mechanism on and off as needed. I was thinking of putting a master switch onto the driver's seat that would have controlled them both, but I figured I might as well just do the same sort of setup as I've done previously on the T4. So I've got a wire just running straight underneath the mat to the 2 seats, and that's going to be going to each individual switch on each seat. The feed for that is going to be spliced into the main power feed that I recorded earlier on, that's got the relay going through there, that's connected directly through to the battery. And then all of the other wiring mechanism, I'll put a photo up just describing what each coloured wire does. It's very, very basic, very, very simple. I have explained it a lot more in detail on my previous T4 RX8 seat install video as well, so do have a look at that one as well. As I say, I'll put a photo up showing exactly what the wiring is to get this all in. So now in the meantime I'm just going to get these 2 switches fitted. These just require a 10mm drill bit just poking through the side of the base. I've already drilled one there, so that switch will just sit through there, secures on the underside, and as I say, it just means that the heating mechanism can be turned on and off as needed. Right, so there we go, there's the seats fully finished, fully fitted and installed, all wired in, all secured in underneath as well, bolt wise. They're all tested, they're all working fine as well. So, I say compared to the seats that were in this van when I first bought it, I'll just put a photo up now just to remind you exactly what it looked like when I first got it. So as you can see, compared to the really old, grubby, well stained, well past it original seats that were in the van, as I say, these leather RX8 seats have just fully transformed the look of it. Now, as you can see, the key's out at the moment, so when I'm trying to do any motion, nothing at all. None of the heating mechanisms working. And then when I put the key in, just onto the first click, and then the seat's moving backwards and forwards. The height mechanism's working fine. As you can see, the heating elements working on both seats fine as well. And at least with the illuminated switches you can actually see when they're on. And then worst case scenario, this is why I fitted a relay. If you then had the heated elements on and you get out of the van, now with the relay on you remove the key and it automatically turns all of the actual supply to the seats off. So it means if you did leave a heated element on the seat, got out the van, walked away, did some shopping, you come back, the heating element cannot drain the battery in the van. It will only run when the key's in the ignition. So that's how I fitted my Mazda RX8 black leather electric heated seats into this VW T5. Hope you found this video useful. If you did, give it a good old thumbs up on the video. Have a look at my channel. I'm documenting this entire van job by job, all the way through the entire build. So I say there's loads of content on there already, plenty more to come as well, because I'm just about to start now fully building out the exterior of the van. So as I say, give the video a good old thumbs up. Leave a comment below as well. Do you like these seats? Would you have fitted different seats? Do you prefer the original ones? This, that, the other? I said leave a comment, thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next video of the series. Thanks for watching. Cheers.